The train moves east through darkness. It is December 1922, and the temperature outside has dropped below -30. The passengers, commissars, soldiers, clerks carrying folders stuffed with decrees, press their faces against frosted glass and see nothing but the infinite Russian steppe. They are riding towards something that has never existed before. A country assembled not from history or geography, but from pure, ferocious ideology. The Union of Soviet Socialist Republics is born not with a celebration, but with a signature, a piece of paper, a stamp, and a silence so enormous it swallows everything around it. In the early years, the streets of Moscow smell of sawdust and ambition. Construction crews work through the night under electric lights, a novelty in a city where most people still burn kerosene. Factories rise from mud fields. Propaganda posters, enormous and vivid, stare down from every wall. Muscular workers, blazing suns, red banners wide enough to cover entire buildings. The message is always the same. Forward. Always forward. The past is a wound. The future is a promise. And the present is something to endure. Lenin dies in January 1924. His body is embalmed and placed in a mausoleum of dark red granite on Red Square, as if the revolution itself needs proof that it once had a living face. Hundreds of thousands file past the glass case in silence, breath misting in the cold air. Then a man named Joseph Vissarionovich Stalin begins, quietly and methodically, to restructure everything around himself. He does it slowly, so slowly that by the time people understand what has happened, the architecture of terror is already complete. The collectivization of agriculture begins in 1929. On paper, it is an economic program. In the fields of Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and the Donbassin, it is something else entirely. Grain is requisitioned from villages already on the edge of starvation. Armed brigades move from house to house in the pre-dawn, dark, searching beneath floorboards, inside chimneys, behind icons on walls. What they find, they take. What they cannot find, they assume is hidden. By 1932, the famine called Holodomor has begun to kill millions. The fields are full of winter wheat, but the wheat is property of the state. Peasants who pick up fallen grain from the earth they themselves ploughed, face 10 years in a camp, or death. Villages are surrounded. No one leaves. No one enters. The birds, at least, are free. The Soviet state does not acknowledge any of this. In Moscow, the newspapers report record harvests. The purges come next, arriving in waves through the late 1930s like a tide that never fully retreats. Generals, scientists, poets, factory managers, neighbors, old friends. They disappear into the machinery of interrogation and confession. Men sign documents admitting to conspiracies they never imagined. The confessions are absurd, but the signatures are real, extracted through methods that leave no visible marks. The Gulag archipelago, a vast invisible country existing parallel to the real one, stretches from the Baltic to the Pacific, from the Arctic tundra to the deserts of Central Asia. At its peak, more than 1.5 million people are inside it at any given moment. They build canals, roads, railways, mines. They cut timber in forests where the cold at night can kill a man who stops moving for too long. And yet, and this is perhaps the strangest truth of all, most of them still believe in socialism, in Lenin, in the idea that something had gone wrong at the top, but not at the root. The faith is almost impossible to kill because it was planted so deep, so early in the place where hope lives. June 22nd, 1941. 3:15 in the morning. German artillery opens fire along a front stretching nearly 2,000 kilometers. Operation Barbarossa, the largest military invasion in human history, crashes into the Soviet Union like a wave into a cliff face. The first weeks are catastrophe. Entire armies encircled and destroyed. Hundreds of thousands taken prisoner in single engagements. Panzer columns moving so fast their maps become obsolete before nightfall. Stalin goes silent for 11 days. The man who had terrified an entire continent with his stillness locks himself in his dacha and speaks to no one. But the country does not collapse. It contracts, bleeds, and then begins to fight in a way that Europe has never seen and will never forget. Not because of generals, though some were remarkable, but because of the ordinary human ferocity of people defending something they recognized as theirs, their language, their bread, their grandmother's house, their child's face. Leningrad is besieged for 872 days. People eat wallpaper paste, leather belts, pigeons, and then the pigeons are gone. The daily bread ration in the worst months is 125 grams, a slice thinner than a finger. And still, the city does not surrender. By May 1945, 27 million Soviet citizens are dead. The western third of the country is rubble and ash, and yet the red banner rises over the Reichstag in Berlin. Reconstruction comes with a particular Soviet character: massive, impersonal, relentless. Entire cities are rebuilt in years. The metro stations of Moscow, with their chandeliers and marble floors, are not an irony, they are a statement. Even underground, the state wants its citizens to feel the grandeur of what they are part of. In 1957, a metal sphere the size of a beach ball is launched into orbit. Sputnik. The word means fellow traveler in Russian. Its radio signal, a simple, rhythmic beep, is picked up by ham radio operators across the world who step out into their backyards and tilt their heads up at the night sky. For a moment, the Soviet Union is not a country of secret police and breadlines. It is the future. 4 years later, a man named Yuri Gagarin sits inside a capsule barely large. Enough for his body, is strapped to 30 tons of kerosene and liquid oxygen and launched into space. When asked what he sees, he is reported to say the Earth is blue. And it is beautiful. The years that follow, the Brezhnev era, the stagnation, have a texture unlike any other period. A kind of grey, comfortable numbness. Corruption is universal and therefore invisible. Everyone steals from the state, and the state steals from everyone, and this is understood by all parties as the natural order of things. Jokes circulate in kitchens over bottles of vodka, dark and precise jokes that could not be printed anywhere but spread from mouth to ear across 11 time zones. The Afghan War begins in 1979 and does not end. Zinc coffins come back on military transport planes at night, quietly, without ceremony, because the government has decided that the dead should not become visible. Mothers receive their sons in secret. The grief is privatized. Mikhail Gorbachev comes to power in 1985, and immediately the air changes. He speaks differently, without the wooden cadences, without the pauses where ideology should go. He uses words like glasnost and perestroika, openness and restructuring, and for a moment the country leans forward like a man hearing his own name called from a great distance. What follows is not liberation so much as dissolution. The slow, astonishing unravelling of a structure so enormous that no one had imagined it could simply come apart. Republics declare independence, one after another, like lights going out across a map. The satellite states of Eastern Europe break away in a matter of weeks. The Berlin Wall falls on a November night while a crowd of people stand on both sides of it with hammers
The
and bare
changes we are
hands.
witnessing are profound.
On Christmas Day,
We must ensure
1991,
stability during this
Gorbachev
transition
sits at a
period for the
desk in the
sake of the
Kremlin
people.
and reads a
В силу
statement of
сложившейся ситуации
resignation
я
into a
прекращаю свою
television
деятельность на
camera,
посту президента СССР.
quietly,
Обещаю,
without
что всегда
drama.
буду с вами.
Outside, the red Soviet flag is lowered from the flagpole for the last time. A man on a ladder unhooks it in the cold air and carries it away under his arm, and the pole stands empty for a moment against the Moscow sky. Somewhere in the steppe, a train is still moving east. Its passengers press their faces against the glass. Outside, the snow falls on the ruins and the monuments alike, covering everything with the same patient, indifferent white. The Soviet Union lasted 69 years, 2 months, and 25 days.
Did your
It contained
delegation
15
receive the
republics,
revised agenda
over
from the
100
Ukraine Secretary?
nationalities,
Yes,
and
just this
approximately
morning. The
300 million
amendments are
souls.
significant.
It produced Tolstoy's readers and Gulag's builders. It sent a man to space and starved millions on its own soil. It was, depending on who you ask and when you ask them, the greatest experiment in human history, or the greatest crime. The answer, most likely, is both.